All right, welcome everyone. Woo! It's Hormone Breakthrough Wednesday, and I'm so excited to be with you. And I have a super special guest on with me today. I'm just going to shut everything down so the streaming is really seamless because we don't want anything to interrupt the special time together today.
Love it.
So I've got a super special guest on. She's such a dear friend and beautiful colleague and super, super smart. And she actually played pretty full out in the 15-day hormone reset.
And you rocked it, Robin. That was amazing.
It was so much fun. It was truly a love fest.
It was a love fest. It was gorgeous. I love your community. I loved everything about it.
Yeah. And you were a big part of it. Oh my gosh, it was so fun to see you in there. So I just want to say hello and welcome to beautiful Cindy Watson.
Thank you. So great to be here.
So great. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about this beautiful, sexy woman. Today's Hormone Breakthrough Wednesday is a little bit different. So it's not directly related to health or hormones, but we're going to tie it back because this group, the Natural Solutions for Hormone Balance Group, Sisterhood, is all about becoming the CEO of your own health. Right? It's taking charge. It's understanding what it takes to be healthy. It is going from fear to rock solid confidence, even in the face of adversity. And that's what this talk is all about today, is how can we stand in our power even more with everything that's going on? How can we be our bright, shining light anyway? And so Cindy Watson is the founder of Women on Purpose. How cool is that? And she's the creator of the Art of Feminine Negotiation program. She's also founder and managing partner of Watson Labor Lawyers as an attorney specializing in social justice law for the past 30 years. She's an international speaker, award-winning author, and consultant, and she's known for her passion, commitment, and ability to inspire. Cindy has a proven track record empowering, advocating, and motivating people to become the best version of themselves. Cindy believes all of life is a negotiation, and she's dedicated to helping people leverage their innate powers of persuasion to get what they want and deserve from the boardroom to the bedroom. Welcome, Cindy.
Oh, thanks for having me. You're going to make me blush with that introduction. It's so great to be here, Robin. I love your community, as I said.
She's an incredible podcast. I absolutely love her podcast. She's an incredible speaker, and she's very inspiring. So Cindy, get us started here. Like, there is so much craziness going on in the world right now, and there's so much fear. And I think that the 15-day hormone reset program really helped us just kind of cocoon for a little bit and nourish ourselves so that we could come out a little bit stronger. But give us sort of the background around going from fear to rock solid confidence with everything that's going on.
Sure. And there's a lot to cover, so I'll sort of take your cue. Feel free to jump in and stop me at any point. And I guess I'd start because when you're saying this isn't normal, your sort of normal conversation, because it's not really about health. And I would say it is, to the extent that it's about our mental health for sure. And, as part of my Art of Feminine Negotiation, my whole thing is about helping women sort of step up and leverage their power through the Art of Feminine Negotiation. And this is a little different for me. It turned out to not be so different as it was, but it was more of a passion project. When COVID really hit at first, Robin, I just saw such a climate of fear and angst and global grief on an unprecedented scale. And it just seemed all consuming for so many people. And so it really got me thinking, wow, in these different times, and let me start by noticing that I said in these different times, because language matters. And that is sort of one of the first keys that I would share as well. We can talk about these challenging times, these chaotic times, but that's training our brain to buy into that kind of panic and fear. So just really being careful about the language that we use, and the thoughts that we choose matter, and the meaning that we give to those thoughts matter. And just by way of when we talk about sort of the science behind it, the Cleveland Clinic did a study, and the average person has about 60,000 thoughts a day. And the thing that amazed me is that 95% of those thoughts repeat every day. Like, think of it, that's a staggering number to me. And 80% of our thoughts are negative. And at first I'm like, oh my gosh, that is so disheartening. And then I'm like, no, Cindy, catch your own language. Think of it as inspiring. I mean, it's inspiring to change our patterns in that way. So I started this project, this passion project started because I made a commitment to go live every day to try and spread some positivity, right? Because all of life is a negotiation. That's my belief. And the most important negotiation is the one we start with ourselves, right? I mean, negotiating our mindset is so key. And I thought, what if the fear was actually more dangerous than the virus itself? What if the way forward is to sort of shift from that fear and shine light into the darkness, if you will? It only takes a single match to light a dark room. So I really wanted to sort of be one of those matches and to help inspire other people to come from that place. So that at least is the impetus of the project. That was the start for me.
Yeah, I love that. It just takes a single match to light a dark room. That's
Yeah.
so beautiful. You say a lot of profound things and you say them really fast. So
The Canadian in me. I talk too quick. I'll try and slow down a little.
yeah, because that's so profound, and languaging is very important. It's very important around our health. It's really important around anything because thoughts become things.
Absolutely.
Thoughts
Absolutely.
become things. And so when we talk about what's happening in a way that is more positive and doable, the only way out of this is through.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And so how we, frame it in our minds is so important. And people don't know what your project is.
Okay, sorry. Well, my passion project was I've created a book that I am offering out into the world for free because I do feel so passionately about how profound a shift this can be and how important it is to get people out of that place of fear or using fear to propel them forward. Because fear can be a very dangerous thing if not managed, right? It can be contagious, both internally within ourselves. When we start feeding on our own fear, it can become very consuming, but also contagious vis-a-vis the other people in our life and even on a global scale. And it also, as you would well know, fear decreases our immune system. Like there are actual physical health ramifications when we stay in a state of fear. So I took these Facebook Lives, and as I was doing this every day and starting to get more and more impassioned about the difference that it could make for people, where you choose to see opportunity as opposed to choosing to focus on the negative. And I saw that profound difference. So I put it all together in a book. It's about 70 pages. And my hope is that it will help be a tool that people can, not just during this, but going forward, anytime you're facing any sort of adversity or even just living our lives, we can all do better by living into the most passionate, purposeful, intentional version of ourselves. So it's written in little bite-sized snippets. So you can, frankly, if you're in the bathroom, you can sort of read a page, or just before you go to bed, just read one little segment and really negotiate that mindset. And it starts with, I think, acknowledging your feelings, right? I talked about the fact at the beginning that I think in a very unprecedented global way, we're experiencing this sense of angst and grief. And for some people, it expressed as rage and, fear, sadness. It was the full range of emotions. And I think it's really important to just start by acknowledging your feelings. Give yourself permission to feel it without judgment, but then really make a decision not to stay there. Choose instead to focus on hope, possibility, the power and resilience of humanity, our acts of service, our generosity. And I think the big mindset shift is recognizing that it is a choice. And a lot of people will resist, and you may well out there, and feel free in the comments if that's the case, because I think our initial inclination is, no, when we're facing something very challenging, it's not a choice to be able to just, sort of snap your fingers. That's just putting your head in the sand, Cindy, and this isn't that. What we resist persists. So it's really important, and a big focus of the book is getting people to recognize the choice that you have, because where your focus goes, your energy flows there, right? And your thoughts and the meaning that you give to those thoughts do create your reality. So why not? What if I could help by giving you some tools, and you could then spread that to focus on what you want rather than what you don't want, to focus on what's going right rather than what's going wrong. And why not choose to reach for a better reality always, and especially in times of adversity?
Yeah, I I think that you're using more really cool sayings than I did in the 15-day hormone reset.
Oh no, I'm talking in sound bites. That's not a good thing.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
You've said some really great things. And I just like to take a poll right now for those who are listening. So, if you've been in a place of fear, just give us a thumbs up or just give us a heart.
Nice.
And if you've been in a place of fear, these have been really interesting times where we haven't really had a choice, right? We've kind of been told what to do,
Yeah.
and we're all trying to do our part by sheltering in place and wearing our masks and doing, washing our hands and doing the things that we're told to do, but it is not our choice. And there's so many unknowns. And so when there's so many unknowns and it's not our choice and we're being told what to do, fear can develop pretty easily because we don't feel like we're in control. And women need to feel like we're in control.
No.
Right? Even though we have no control over any of it, we all need to feel like we have some sense of control. And so it's been a hard time. And I've talked to some of my friends and they said, oh my gosh, this has been, the worst thing for them, staying inside and not having a choice and not being able to go out. And it's been very stressful.
Yeah.
So along with the fear, there's been so much stress living with people who, you're not used to living with, or, maybe you lost your job, or maybe your hours were cut back, or maybe you have to work at home, and you've been like forced to be at home with your husband or your partner who you only thought you would have to deal with in retirement, but now you're having to do a trial retirement right now.
Yeah, and you're not prepared.
You're totally not prepared. And so when Cindy talks about fear, we talk about the time being way more stressful. Yeah, it raises our stress hormones, right? Cortisol, adrenaline, our brain chemistry, norepinephrine, epinephrine, and it puts us into that, sort of lower immune system. Our digestion isn't working quite as well. We're not sleeping as well. Our nervous system is really kind of edgy and amped up. So definitely not good for hormone balance.
Yeah.
Definitely not good. So Cindy, how can we flip the switch from fear and angst to rock solid confidence? Like, what are just a couple of tips?
Yeah, and let me jump in and give you some tips. And I'll start with, because I love that you talked about that control piece, because that is such an important piece of it, right? And there's this beautiful quote that I love, and it's, between stimulus and response, there's a space. And in that space is our power to choose our response. And in our response lies our growth and our freedom. Because our experiences in life come from the emotional reactions that we have to those experiences, right? It's not really the experiences on their own, which is why, two different people can have the same experience and dramatically different sort of reactions to it, because it's that emotional reaction that you bring. And it's from the meaning that we attach. And the good news is that we get to choose the meaning that we attach, right? So some of the tips I would say are, one is, I talked a little bit about that focus piece as well, right? So the direction of your focus is the direction of your life. So one of the tips I give is getting a new perspective. And there are 3 different perspectives that I sort of suggest, but I'm sure you can come up with more, and by all means comment and weigh in on this. Absolutely. One is getting an upward perspective, right? So I call that the hot air balloon perspective, because often when we're stuck in the mire right down here, it seems like the worst possible thing. Think back in your life, in elementary school, oh my gosh, this is so hard. You get to high school, all of a sudden university, or whatever your life experience is. Then you get out in the work world and it seems terrible, but it's so much harder. If only I knew back then what I know now. And so I really invite you to think about just elevating yourself up in a hot air balloon. Go up, up, up. think of the first time on Earth we saw the picture from NASA. It was that perspective, right? That iconic picture of our gorgeous Earth. And it's so profoundly changed how people look at this beautiful planet we live on. So I invite you to get that hot air balloon approach where you can lift yourself up and take a look at where you just came from and where you are, and get it in perspective and say, okay, this seemed like the most horrible thing, but when I get up here, there's so much beauty around. There are so many gifts out there. People are being, Mother Nature is getting a chance to reprieve. And this is just the COVID, but this is for any area of your life, frankly. So getting that height to give yourself a perspective to appreciate all the beauty or the opportunities or the gifts or the choices, or even just get your problems in perspective. Think about what you considered to be your problem just before COVID hit. And then all of a sudden COVID hit, or some other crisis in your life. My daughter got diagnosed with a heart defect as a baby, and suddenly my world became this big. And all those problems that I thought were this huge suddenly seemed so inconsequential. And again, weigh in if you've had those moments. We all have. And the opposite sort of perspective shift on that, the second one I recommend, I call it the submarine periscope perspective. Especially in times of adversity, we feel, Robin, like we're in a submarine, right? We've got all this pressure and it's dark and we can't really see or get a perspective.
Yeah, the sheltering in place, that could be the submarine perspective. Yeah.
It's a big one. I'd say this is a really big one. A lot of people are feeling that pressure and confinement. I mean, it's really a beautiful analogy. So just while you're in this space, make sure to shoot your periscope up, right? Get a periscope up to get a perspective. Unlike the hot air balloon where you're looking down to see the breadth of it, in our submarine, our worlds get this big, as you were saying, Robin, with your husbands or with your kids, and we're in this pressure cooker, if you will. So just shoot that periscope up and, let yourself take a look around and see the air. And take a breath, frankly, take that moment to be able to get that. And the last perspective is just that looking backwards and forwards, right? I actually do think in any adversity, and this is no exception, it gives us a moment to pause when we can let ourselves get intentional about making that choice and look back and go, okay, where have I been? Where am I coming from? How did I show up, for example? Who was I? What was I doing? Was I on a path that really brought me joy and fulfillment? Was I living my life on purpose? And then you get to see where you're at now. And now every moment of every day, you have a choice to look forward. Okay, who do I want to show up as at the other side of this? Who do I want to be? Who do I want to surround myself with? So direction of your focus and getting those perspectives is one tip. So I don't know if you wanted to comment or if you want me to forge ahead.
Yeah, well, I'd like to recap. So, I think that the fact that I could go surfing, during the whole time, it was really funny. The beaches were closed here, but you could walk across the beach to get in the water and go surfing, and they never closed it here. I know in some places they did.
Yeah.
And so just the fact that I could get out in nature really made all the difference for me.
Yeah.
It was wonderful. And so I love like the whole hot air balloon idea, because you mentioned so many things, like when your daughter, was little and she had the heart thing, all the other little issues that were a big deal in your life became so small.
Yeah.
Right. Like we have to put things in perspective. And I feel so grateful. I don't know one person, who had COVID, or I don't even know of a family, who was impacted by it, except for, on the news. So I feel very, very grateful in so many ways, and that doesn't mean I'm not being careful. It just means I just haven't been around it very much. We're a little bit, I think there are a lot of areas in the United States and Canada that haven't been affected very much. And then I love the whole periscope thing. That's such a great analogy for having to shelter in place. Let's get out. You could still go hiking. So, go hiking and, get out in nature. It just makes all the difference.
Yeah.
And and I want you to go back to the concept that you shared, and I don't know exactly how it goes, but it's the moment that something happens, and before you take action, there's the in between.
Yeah, it's a beautiful quote actually about it's between stimulus and response. Is that the one you mean?
Yes.
So between stimulus and response, there is a space. And in that space is our power to choose our response. And in that response lies our growth and freedom. So really what it's talking about, and I've tried to source out the attribute, and it gives, ultimately it turns out nobody knows who it came from. Everybody thought it was Stephen Covey, and he says that it wasn't him, but it's a gorgeous talking about that pause, really taking advantage to take that breath, take that moment, and again to get that perspective piece, right? That's why, and I love that you talk about grounding yourself in nature as well, because as I said, the book's in little bite-sized segments. One of them is on perspective, one of them is how to get, control in the face of chaos, and one of them is about grounding yourself. Let the universe ground you, like both literally and metaphorically, right? I mean, I know one night I was starting to feel angsty myself, and I went outside and just, oh my gosh, Robin, the stars over top, and it grounded me, but it also expanded my mind so much, because you look at the stars and you realize again that perspective shift, how insignificant in some ways in the grand scheme of things, and how connected we all are when you look at the stars, and how much if you look at something one way you can see it, and you look from a different angle and it's a totally different perspective. So I think grounding yourself in nature is often a beautiful, beautiful way to sort of ground yourself. And
Yeah, it's so
reframing fear.
important.
You
Mhm.
had asked me as well about, like, specifically about fear. One of the things I like to think is fear is really the other side of excitement, right? I mean, fear and excitement are sort of sister sides of each other. And with my clients, with my programs, I'll often say to people, hey, try and push people to surrender, to get outside of their comfort zone often, right? Just get yourself out of that comfort zone. So you get into that competence and confidence loop, because the more you try, the more risk you take, the more confidence you get, which gives you then more confidence. And that continues to spiral up in this beautiful sort of spiral upwards. So think of when you get those butterflies, think of it as internal applause. That's what I always say, right? That yay, you're getting out of your comfort zone, as corny as that is, right? And also reframing your fear, because everybody talks, a lot of attention is given to the fear of failure. And as women in particular, we tend to have very high, fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of hearing that no, fear of not being enough. And yet the sort of sister to that I think is often not talked about, I think a lot of that fear of failure, rejection, is actually fear of success, right? Fear of our own power. And that, Marianne Williamson quote on that is so beautiful, right? About that stepping in, who are you not to be, shine your light and be big and bold. And I think that's a beautiful sort of reframe to help you when you're feeling in quicksand in times like these, or when you're in any sort of situation of adversity, whether it's, my dad died at 52 of a heart attack, rocked my world. I mentioned about my daughter. We all have different adversities that come up in our life. And when it happens, we feel like we're on quicksand. We just can't quite find that solid ground. So one of the ways I find that can be a really powerful tool to help you get some solid ground again and push out of fear and into a place of more empowerment is through the power of questions. I talked a bit about the power of your thoughts, but also the power of the questions. If we ask bad questions, we're going to get really bad answers. So ask better questions. And what do I mean by that? If we sit around going, oh, in COVID or any other, why is this happening to me? As opposed to, how can I continue to experience even more joy in this moment? Or, oh, why does my life suck? How about, how can I make my life even more fantastic and beautiful in exactly the way I desire? That may sound like a sort of a cheap hack, but it's actually really important. And the science supports it, because our brain will give us, or tries to give us, what it thinks we want. And that's why that little inner critic, when we allow those negative voices to chirp at us, our brain goes, oh, okay, she thinks she's going to fail. Let me find evidence of that to help support her, So why not train your brain to give you the best? To think the best, to expect the best. We all have that reticular activating system of our brain. Think of it like a giant Google search bar at the back of your brain. If you search into Google and you ask the wrong questions when you're trying to research something, you're not going to get the answer you want. So if you ask better questions, ask questions that will allow your brain to get to work finding a solution for you. so, so powerful, right?
Yeah, I love this. So great. Okay, so let's just do one more. We just have time for one more question. And then Rebecca, if she hasn't already, can share the link to your beautiful ebook.
Okay.
So the type, so a couple of things. So you kind of talked about the type of attitude that you need to succeed and get what you want in wealth, health, and love. I mean, you're kind of, talking about this throughout, like the questions that you ask and, changing your negative thoughts to positive thoughts. We don't really have control of what comes in, but we have control over what stays there, and how we manage that information. So can you add to that, first of all, and then, yeah, just is there anything else that you want to, I think my other part to this is sometimes when our health is in such a place or our brain chemistry is in such a place, it's really hard for us to do this.
Yeah.
It's almost like the amygdala, our reptilian brain,
Yes.
has taken over and won't let go.
Yes. Yeah.
Then what do we do?
Well, I guess a couple of things I would say about that. One is what I call sort of your stress buster or your state changer, right? So in that moment, just find, and I'll give you a quick little exercise for that. So basically, when you're in that moment and the amygdala is kicking in, that's an excellent point, Roman, because that's when most people go, well, how am I supposed to just turn that switch, Cindy? And again, it goes back. That's why I love that quote so much about the pause. First, just find it in your body. Like always take that pause. So as soon as you feel that amygdala kicking in and you feel that angst rising or your heartbeat racing or however it shows up for you, then just take a moment and literally find it in your body. At first you'll go, oh, it's everywhere. My head feels like, but if you actually allow yourself to just take that pause and take a moment, you'll feel it somewhere more than others. For some people, it's the temple. For some people, it's in their heart. For some, it's that solar plexus and they can't get there. But whatever it is for you, there's no right or wrong here. It's a beauty, just getting in touch with your own body. Find wherever that feeling is in your body. And then just stay with it for a moment. Don't fight it, because again, what we resist persists. So just get in touch with your body, allow yourself to feel it. Like I said at the very beginning about giving yourself permission. And then while you're doing that, as you're getting in touch with it, not resisting it, but just let yourself visualize sort of shrinking it, right? Shrinking that feeling, letting it, being in touch with it, and then sort of sending it away. And while you're doing that, do what's called box breathing. If you haven't done that, 4 by 4 by 4 by 4. So in for 4, hold for 4, out for 4, hold for 4. And while you're doing that as well, just think of gratitude in the moment. Think of something, or ideally 3 things that you can be grateful for, even with your amygdala kicking in. As you're slowing everything down through this process, allow yourself to think of something that you're grateful for, or 3 things that you're grateful for, if you can get yourself there. And then acknowledge, do your affirmation that, I am 100% responsible for my experience in this moment. Just remind yourself of that. I can't control the external world. I can't control COVID. I can't control my daughter's heart condition. I can't control whatever it is for you, but I can control how I experience it. I can control my reaction to it. And tied to that, I always say, ask yourself, how do I choose to show up? And I really encourage people to pick 3 words so that you have them readily available for when the amygdala kicks in, right? So what 3 words best describe the qualities that you want to be known for and seen as? And there's no right or wrong answer. They're your words. It could be compassionate, present, bold, inspiring, courageous, joyful, grateful, whatever it is for you. Put them on a sticky note and slap them on your bedroom, your washer mirror. And every night before you go to bed, look at those 3 words. And every morning when you get up, to remind yourself. And you can even put them as an alarm in your phone so that throughout the day, they just pop up at a day when your energy lags, or when you're normally, if you're going to go into a meeting that is likely to trigger you, have those words ready to remind you. And even just have a trigger. For me, I touch the door jamb. So say I was coming from a high stakes, intense litigation day in my law practice. As I'm coming home, I just touch the door jamb, take that second to ground myself and ask, okay, who do I want to show up as when I walk through this door? Total game changer. So
I love that. And I love the 3 words. They're my favorite.
Yeah.
You can change your 3 words, So as the year goes on, if you want 3 new words, you can
Absolutely.
change them up. So it's however you want to show up. And it's cool. I think put them on your computer, put them everywhere so that you can see them.
Yeah. And you can change them up for a particular meeting or whatever, right? So yeah.
True.
And this project is a little different for me. Like, I mean, I'm normally talking about sort of leveraging your power and sort of tactics in terms of negotiating. But I realized the two are more connected than I thought, because so much of my program, like the art of feminine negotiation, is all about not bringing that masculine energy, but recognizing the strength we have through our intuitive sort of feminine traits, if you want. It's not male, female, it's that masculine, feminine energy. And this is all about that, negotiating your mindset to come from a grounded place where you can show up consistently as the best version of yourself to get the most out of life.
Yeah. Okay. So share with us about your book. You shared some of it, and Rebecca, you can go ahead and post the link here so that the gals can grab it. And you said that there are just very small little chapters.
Yeah.
So kind of little vignettes of, things to do to go from fear to rock solid confidence. And is there anything else that you want the ladies to know about your book?
Well, about the book, I would just say, like, you've got a lot of different exercises in there. There's a little segment on gratitude, a segment on strength and service. There's a segment on that state changer, using humor as an antidote, worry busting, and giving you a number of different strategies, because no one thing works for all of us. So I normally try to give a few examples. So, whether it's a worry dump or challenging or different options, right? And things like the new currency, we maybe coming through this, instead of focusing on money, our new currency can be love or compassion or whatever we choose as a currency. So the book is a free resource. I encourage you to not only read it, reread it. I hope it's a tool you go back to over and over again, but share it. Like, really, please feel free to share it widely. It's one of those, I don't care what you do for a living, I can't imagine that somebody wouldn't be able to find some nugget of value to help ground them to face adversity. And also, as always, feel free to direct them to my website. I have all kinds of other free resources as well about negotiating your life. This one's a much more substantive. I mean, I hesitate to even call it an ebook. It's like I say, it's 70 pages long. So, but definitely I have shorter sort of books as well about no fear negotiating and the 5 secret weapons to being an effective negotiator. So knock yourself out. Regular blog posts on all of those issues as well. But this is my baby.
Cindy's a rock star when it comes to, getting what you want. And that's really, what we're all about, is getting what we want when it comes to our health, but also asking for what we want in all areas of our lives and really figuring out how to get it. Like that's our journey. Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah, my biggest wish is just for your listeners out there, just, I wish for you to be able to step into a life where you can take advantage of that pause, that space, and make choices that enrich your life. That's really what it's all about.
And Cindy, remind me, are you in this Facebook group, the Natural Solutions for Hormone Balance? Do you remember?
Yes, I should be. And I will double check that, because I know
double check, because if you have any questions for Cindy, you can just post them here in the comment section, and I know she'd be happy to answer them for you.
Absolutely.
And her book is such a beautiful gift. She's been talking about it for a little while now. She's been working so hard on it and just wants to give a gift to all of us and to anybody who you want to share it with, just to help us not just get through, but to really shine through these times. Not to like hunker down, but to really be ourselves and show up in a really powerful way. And so we're just really grateful that you joined us today and shared some of your tips and secrets, and then this beautiful book with us. We're really grateful.
Oh, thank you for having me. It was my pleasure.
Yeah, let's give Cindy a whole bunch of hearts, and big kisses. Mwah. Thank you, Cindy.
Thank you. And thank you for the work you do, Robin.
You're welcome. And thank you all for showing up. In fact, congratulations for showing up on behalf of yourself and continuing to take that crazy, awesome next step towards your towards feeling fabulous. That's the end game, is feeling fabulous and keeping it there.
Love it.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Take care.